the Shilling, the great Shilling of esports, because it's just really insufferable now. And I want to lay the table right at the start of the debate, because people like to do gotchas, and what I find is very often morons like to do gotchas. And when you're a moron, what appears to be a gotcha usually isn't a gotcha. Kind of like when people go, for instance, and ooh, this is topical, but like when all this corruption around Hunter Biden, and they go, well, I'm sure I won't vote for Hunter Biden in the next election. The point is, of course, that, it was a pay-to-play scheme, to gain access to his father, who was directly involved in political policy, which is just called, bribery and political corruption. That's why it's important. It's not about anything, right? But anyway, morons like to do gotchas, but they're never, ever really gotchas. So one of the gotchas that the morons like to do here is they go, well, Richard, you're going to criticize some people about Saudi Arabia. But don't your friends work with Saudi Arabia? So why don't you criticize them? Right? And of course, that isn't a gotcha, because first of all, I do and have. We'll get to that in a second. But second of all, the reason why that's not a gotcha is none of my friends that I haven't criticized have morally grandstanded about how they would never work with Saudi Arabia, then watched Saudi Arabia take over the 80% of esports, and then turn around and gone, yeah, them Saudis, though, they're all right? You know what I mean? Right? They haven't done that. But the people that I'm going to call out on this stream today, and indeed called out in an article I did the other day on Substack, it's the people who fucking want the cultural capital of morally grandstanding about fucking mainstream opinions, and then they want the money as well to betray those values. You can't have both. You can grandstand, you can be like, oh, I have come to you, the gays, I have come to you, and I am going to protect you with my stunning and brave opinions on Twitter. I will act as a barrier between you and people who would harm you. I'm here. And everyone claps and goes, wow, and you're having that moment like fucking Daenerys in Game of Thrones. Carry me, gays, carry me, for I am your queen, right? You want that, right? And you can get that with just a tweet, because that's how fucking pathetic the world is, okay? You don't know, zero stakes, zero skin in the game, right? No risk. But here's the thing, when you then go and betray that value, it's despicable. And it's worse than if you just said fuck all and take the money. So let's be clear. My rules are this. Everybody has to be comfortable. You set your level of comfort about what what money you'll take. How much corruption you're willing to be party to, what you consider ethically, that's you. That's for you to set. You rule that, right? That's totally on you. And so, for instance, Monte Cristo, I work with him. You may have seen me on a recent podcast with him, not just the Four Horsemen. We're now doing a movie podcast together called Foreplay. It's great. Go check it out. Right? But Monty believes and has said openly to my face and to all of your faces that all money is covered in blood. All money is tainted. All money stems from a corrupt spring. And so as a result, he will not disseminate whether it's like bad for this reason or bad for that reason, because ultimately, if you start doing that, he believes you will be in a place where you just can't make money. All money is bad. So he will work with Saudi. He will absolutely work with Saudi Arabia. I'll be very surprised if at some point he doesn't take some money from Saudi Arabia. Thorin and I completely fucked him over because we'd secured potential funding for the company that they founded, that's now Last Free Nation. But it was Saudi Arabian money, and me and Duncan both said, nah, actually, I don't want the millions. So, by the way, all the people saying, oh, it's hard to walk away from money. We literally walked away from millions. I'm talking millions of investment, seed money for our company. We could have drawn our own salaries. We could have made content all day, been financially comfortable, probably to the point of never actually needing to work again, and we turned it down. So don't ever tell me it's hard, because I could have changed my entire life with just a yes, and I know for a fact I could have styled it out with the community and gone, well, what you gonna do? Or there's levels of abstraction, but I didn't do it, right? So I know, right? I know what it's like to say no to millions. So fuck you telling me it's hard. Because at my age, I should be thinking about retirement, right? I don't own a house. Yeah? You do. And you're still taking more. So fuck you. So, anyway, that's Monty's opinion. And so I still work with Monty. He can have his opinion. I got my opinion. I won't take the money. What you cannot then do is say, yeah, basically, this is the moral line in the sand where I will not cross. And then when you're out of options, you go, yeah, I never really cared about that anyway. Over the line we go, I guess. But hey, listen, I just want you all to know I'm super sad to have to cross this line. No, if you want to take that money, you've got to shut the fuck up and take it. It's the only way it works, right? Because you can't say you have a value and then betray the value. So anyway, what I noticed is we are going into this weird moment on the esports calendar because we got Gamers 8, right? Now, Gamers 8 is an 8-week-long Saudi Arabian state-funded, state-run, because the companies that run it are also owned by Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. It's one of the biggest gaming festivals in the world. They have thrown hundreds of millions of dollars into this to have every esport, right? And so as a result, if you want to work that event, and trust me, people want to work the event because what is being offered, I've been told behind the scenes, sometimes you get to command 2, 3, maybe 5 times your usual day rate if you're a big name, because they want to get you there to normalize this bullshit, right? But here's the problem with it on the calendar. We just had Pride, right? We just had Pride. And so, what do we do now that Pride lasts a month, right? And American corporatism demands that you talk about these things. You talk about you can't. It's actually not. It actually hurts you to not talk about it, which is what I mean when I talk about the cultural capital of expressing mainstream opinions, right? So we go from that into everybody wants a piece of this, and so we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about all the hypocrites. And I want people to know I am going to say some fundamentally unkind things about people I like, people I respect, people I work with, people I care about, because the truth is the truth. You're not immune to it. You don't just get, Richard won't say nothing about me. Richard will say something about you, I'm afraid, right? And if you can't handle it, then I don't know what to say. Like, I'm not compromising my ethics to make you feel more comfortable. Not doing it. Never done it. Never done it for anybody, actually. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the type of motherfucker, don't get me wrong, you in some trouble, you call me up in the middle of the night. If we're pals, it's ride or die. Like, I don't give a fuck. We're burying a body together at fucking 4 a.m., whatever, right? But if you want me to come along for a ride where I have to turn a blind eye to you doing something unethical, or or you want me to fucking come along and do the unethical thing with you, you're gonna have to explain it. There's gonna have to be reasons, and if that reason is the bag, fuck you. I've never cared about that. I think there are things worth compromising for. There are things worth dying for, and it ain't the bag. It's never been the bag. It's never been that. That's just money. That's trash. That's garbage. So, yeah, and all the people in the chat going, you're talking about burying a body and the ethics. Right, obviously I'm going to say, if it's, apart from the fact it's a phrase, it's a catchphrase, but obviously as well, like, dependent on the reasons. Like, he came at me, no, I don't want to go to prison, you know what I mean? We can talk, is all I'm saying. We can't talk about, I just want to be a greedy piece of shit. That's what we can't talk about. So anyway, let's do it. Let's get into how we get here. Here it is. This is Gamers 8 for CSGO. So I just want to show you the teams that are going to be signed up to this. As you can see, pretty much all of the top teams. We've got Heroic, Vitality, FaZe, G2, ENCE, Gamer Legion, Liquid, Cloud9, Apex, Virtus Pro, Fnatic, Furia, 9ine, Na'Vi, MIBR, and Falcons. Falcons getting that because they are also Saudi funded, so they just get to go to the biggest tournaments in the world, I guess, right? So anyway, guess what, right? Now, even though there is a cultural capital expectation to talk about topics like, diversity and inclusiveness. That's literally something you have to do now, right? Like, people say, you're the dickheads or the rightoids on fucking social media. Go, just don't bring politics into this thing when, of course, consumption itself and capitalistic, consumption is inherently political. And indeed, cultures and societies are built on political values. So nothing exists in a political vacuum. But anyway, what I mean when I talk about cultural capital, right? Cultural capital is like skills or knowledge or, whatever it is. And you use it within a culture, within a group, to be able to have upward mobility within that group. And so in our current iteration of Western society, one of the ways you accrue cultural capital is by having the right opinions. And it will encourage upward mobility, right? What I mean by that is, let's say, for example, two people go into a hiring position and the person holds a certain belief and you've tweeted about that belief or been vocal about that belief or share that belief, and you yourself, and this person here doesn't or has said the opposite, then who do you think has more opportunity of the upward mobility? These things are starting to inform business. They're starting to inform the way we do things. So anyway, the reality is I know a lot of these organizations have been very vocal about pride, about diversity and inclusiveness, these types of things. When I went and had a look at all of the Twitter feeds for all of the teams that were in attendance, I found 2 that had talked about pride, and it was Heroic and Team Liquid. And what my actual belief is, right, that a lot of these teams knew, shit, we've got to go to Riyadh. I mean, you don't have to, by the way. Has it ever occurred to you to boycott it? Well, of course not, because it's a massive prize pool. So we're now in a position where do you remember how they always say, oh no, but we go to these places and we introduce them to our ideals and our values, and eventually they'll come along to our idea of doing things. No, this is an example of how it's always the opposite, because the person who holds the bag is the person with the power and is the person with the influence. It is a lie that we tell ourselves so we can get away with doing these things. What's happening now is, in my opinion, I think a lot of these teams were looking at each other going, oh, fuck. These orgs are looking at each other and going, we're going out to Saudi. We probably shouldn't say anything, actually. Right? And, there's going to be some orgs I wouldn't expect, like, for, let's just say, reasons. I don't think you're ever going to see Virtus Pro tweet about Pride Month, for instance. But, or Furia. But, for example, FaZe has done it in the past. Didn't seem to do a lot this June, actually. So, very interesting how that works. Now, we're going to talk specifically about Team Liquid in just a moment. But how disheartening, right? That all of these big major orgs are going, and one of the slots that was available was up for grabs. You could compete in a qualifier to be the last team to attend. Now, I want to refresh everybody's memory because I am sick of the fucking fakes and frauds in this business. Back in 2021, I came out of retirement, right, to host an event in Stockholm. And PGL basically put us all in a weird spot by making these hiring decisions that a lot of people like myself didn't necessarily agree with. They completely ignored our feedback. And so at the start of what should have been a, hey, look at all the old guys are back, let's enjoy it, let's have a good time, right? Instead, it immediately, from day one, because of PGL's incompetence and inability to read the room, set us off on a bad start, right? A bad start that we managed to pull back before it went over the cliff entirely. People lost their shit because in the original talent announcement, there wasn't a woman hired. Now, you will notice, by the way, at that time, people like Sponge, your hero Sponge, right? He was out there arguing, saying, like, which man should be fired and, and lose their job because they wanted to play the meritocracy card. You notice I didn't tweet nothing, didn't say a word. Why not? Because some women should have been hired, obviously. Like, unquestionably, there were women who could have been hired that were better choices than some of the men who were hired to do the same job. That's all there is to it, guys. That's literally all there is to it, right? And so I just said nothing. I'm like, you guys want to get into this shit, you do it. I'm not coming along. right? But I made my recommendations. I talked about Pansy. I talked about Smix. I talked about Frankie. So I talked about Freya. So I'm totally fine, by the way. Like, I'm just like, listen, I said it to PGL, so proof's there. I don't give a fuck. You know, my conscience is clear. But of course, everybody, you know, wanted to say, like, no woman would come to the event because big misogynist Richie Lewis was there, was another narrative that Reddit and HLTV decided to go with. Weird how none of these women I've worked with ever come out and say anything bad about me, isn't it? In fact, quite the opposite. But anyway, why would facts matter in esports? So anyway, at that time, there were everybody queued up to get that cultural capital and say, look at this sexist hiring practice, right? And so the worst example of this was this guy. This is Jonas Kalk Gunderson. He is the CEO of NIP, and he came in and tweeted this. I mean, at least there's one person who isn't a white male, referring to James Bardolph. So there looks to be a massive focus on diversity. Come on, esports, it's 2021. We can do a lot better than this. It's the biggest CSGO event there is. The whole world is watching. Disappointing, right? Sorry, COO, my bad. Anyway, now, apart from the fact he's wrong, because Blair is of Indian descent, DDK is himself of dual heritage, and I believe it is from Africa originally. And we also have Machine, who is dual heritage. Efren just got completely ignored for some reason. I don't understand. So, I mean, you know, I don't really understand that. I also don't understand why a Swede has adopted the moronic American conceptualization of diversity, which is, if you're white, you are white. That is the only type of white there is. White, generic American white, when in reality, a Serbian, a Frenchman, a Britishman, a Dane, you know, like a Canadian, that is all so, like, completely different in terms of, like, heritage, history, genetics. It's nonsense. So anyway, whatever. But I don't know why Swede decided to go that way. Now, what was also ridiculous at the time, right, was there wasn't a single woman employed in. They didn't have a female team in any of their esports in NIP. And when somebody pointed that out, the replies, and I think it was Chad, and people went, oh, you're better than this. But no, actually, you know, at the end of the day, put your money where your mouth is. Now, they did. They got into the Saudi-run GG for All project, right? The irony of that. You got involved in a sports washing project. But anyway, let's just assume that NIP really do care about these issues, right? After all, they did pick up a women's team eventually. So that's fine. But here's the problem. Remember that totally optional qualifier for the Gamers 8 event in Riyadh, where I just to let you know what's still going on with women in Riyadh, for example, because they did just change the laws. They brought in a law, so now women only have to have a guardian in public, a male guardian in public, if they're over 18. But there's still crazy shit. You want to get married and you're a woman? You better ask a male guardian's permission. If they don't give you permission, you can't marry. Do you know if you're a woman and you serve a prison sentence, when your sentence is over, you need permission to leave the prison, right? So let's not fucking pretend just because they can drive now and don't have to wear total face coverings, right, that we're actually in a progressive Riyadh of the future. We're not. That's before, by the way, we even get into human rights violations, the murdering of political dissidents, women's rights activists being imprisoned for 40 years. It's not the same. It doesn't matter how progressive it gets. Until it respects human rights, we've got problems. We got beef. I'm never going to go there. I'm not going there. I'm not going to ever take any money from these people. Not until they can look me in the eye and say, right, okay, we believe all human life is equal, and we believe that it should all have, you know, dignity and respect applied to it, and there is a fundamental blanket human rights that we're willing to respect. So, and that day will not happen in Saudi in my lifetime, no matter how progressive it's getting. It's as simple as that, right? So that totally optional qualifier to go and play in an event in Riyadh, right? What teams do you think decided to enter it? Well, let's have a look, shall we? Oh, look, there you are. It's your boy, Ninjas in Pajamas. Now, remember, there's no contractual obligation for this. It's a qualifier. They don't have to participate in it. ESL did ask their partners if they would go and attend, but so you absolutely didn't have to participate in this. You could have even had a soft layup, an easy W, by saying, no, we will not be participating in a qualifier. You weren't going to win, right? So anyway, no, you're there. All of these teams were there. By the way, as well, just as a complete aside, while we're here, you will not find a more preachy organization than Evil Geniuses, right? You just won't. So I'm like lost with this one. I don't even understand it. All of these orgs in the Americas participated. And so, again, EG, there they are. All of these orgs did it. So keep an eye out for some of your favourite American personalities talking about how important pride is to them, how important women's rights are to them. But, oh, what? A sniff of getting in the last slot for like $1 million? Oh, wow. Okay, sign me up. Let me cook. So I'm sorry, guys. You shills. Shut the fuck up. The only time I ever want to hear you talk about this again is a grovelling apology about how you betrayed your values, how you sold out for cash. It's the only time I want to see a COO ever pipe up, a CEO ever pipe up, ever again. I can talk about it, you can't. Shut the fuck up. I cannot make it any clearer, right? Stop. It is insulting to the people whose lives you are using to score internet brownie points. Stop. You fucking liars. You fucking frauds. You owe an apology to every gay fan you sold a line of bullshit to. Now, on that note, let's get into some of the worst offenders. I won't bring it up, but if you go to Team Liquid, now, this is what I mean about having to say things about people you respect. The founder of Team Liquid, Victor Goosens, is a Hall of Famer. He has built one of the most successful brands in esports, maybe even the most successful brand from the OG days. Team Liquid is an institution, and he is a really nice guy and deserves all the plaudits, but this is piss week. One of the things that are going on other than the CSGO tournament is the Dota tournament. We'll get to the Dota talent in just a moment, but I really want to talk about Team Liquid. Now, this is huge. It's the biggest. They have this thing called the Riyadh Masters. I, by the way, exposed that this was coming, that the entire ESL Dream League was all getting repurposed, because what the Saudi Arabian state wants is they want to have all major... By the way, I've been told behind the scenes that the aim is, by 2025, for every esport in the ESL, face it, Windex conglomerate group, the finals are to be held in Riyadh. That's what they're gunning for. That's what they want, right? And that's probably what they're going to get, because no one is going to stand up to it. Right, but that's what they want. So you will get 5-6 events a year in Riyadh. That's what the whole play is. But for now, it's Dota. And listen, again, I don't mind this. You pick your poison, right? You choose what hills to die on. The Dota community are like, well, the DPC is shit. We only have TI. The majors have been poorly run by third-party tournament operators. Maybe having loads of money come in from Saudi Arabia is the only thing that keeps our game on life support. And I'll tell you this, even though they are totally fine with it, right? Even though they are totally fine with it, the Dota fans, at least they know what sports washing is. They know why it's happening. So, credit to them, I guess, there. They're also totally fine with it, but at least they have an awareness of what it is. Anyway, Team Liquid, right? This was their statement they put out, a written statement that they put out, and it said, in a few days, Team Liquid and much of the esports world will by the way, I love that just from the start. Team Liquid, and everyone else is doing it, so it's totally okay. No, it's not totally okay. Sometimes it takes one person to make a stand. And remember, by the way, like, I'm not singling them out as like being an amazing example of what to do in esports. But you remember Critical's org, Moist Esports, had that Rocket League team. And then when there was an event in Dubai, I believe it was, in the United Arab Emirates, or it might have been another Gamers 8 tournament, I can't remember which one. But anyway, they said they wouldn't go. They said they wouldn't attend. And they had a very good chance of winning because they were like one of the best teams in the world at that time. They turned it down. So how hard is it, guys? Really? Like, how hard is it? You know, Critical is talking about how his org's losing money all the time. So why do you get a pass, right? That's out of his bag. That's out of his pocket, right? So if he can say no, why can't you? That's what I don't understand. So anyway, it goes on. Most of the world will participate in the Riyadh Masters. Since last year, Saudi Arabia has increased its investments and aims to build itself into a hub for esports, and is nearly unavoidable. Saudi Arabia's laws and policies on women's rights, LGBTQ+ rights, migrant workers, native tribes, and political speech do not line up with our values or the values of the majority of the esports community. While there has been some improvement in the country, more needs to be done. We believe Team Liquid has a responsibility to raise awareness and push for an esports community that welcomes all. We're committing $50,000 to Rainbow Railroad, a charity that helps LGBTQ+ people all over the world escape life-threatening persecution. By the way, it is actually a legit good charity. It's a good choice. And $50,000 to initiatives and events that help women and LGBTQ+ people in esports. This is in addition to the $47,500 we've already donated last year. We will continue to work with ESL to guarantee the safety of our staff and players in the region. We hope the community will remain outspoken about these events and that other organisations will also help raise awareness. We know this won't please everyone, and we understand that the community will talk. That's good. We believe that this is better than the silence that would come otherwise. So indeed, in many ways, Team Liquid are the real heroes for starting a conversation that we were already having. Excellent. Very good, right? Like, by the way, people were talking about this. Then they did a video, which we're going to watch a video. We're going to have a break from my voice, right? This is Victor Cousins himself, who, as I've said, a man that I have nothing but the utmost respect for, met him many times, talked to him many times. We've had disagreements. Of course, we have. Team Liquid have been not great when it comes to, PR and press relations. But I always felt that was coming from the American half of the organisation rather than the European. I've known Victor for a long, long time. But at the end of the day, bullshit's bullshit, right? That's just how it is. So here we go. Let's have a listen, shall we?
Talk about Team Liquid's participation at the Gamers 8 events in Riyadh. As you might know, there's been more and more investment coming from the Middle East into esports in recent times. Team Liquid and many other organizations are caught a little bit in the middle of all of this. It puts us in a very difficult spot and a difficult position because we are aware that there's still many human rights issues in the region. This could be related to, for example, challenges with the LGBTQIA+ community, or it could be related to the kafala system that's still so common in countries in this region. We've always been outspoken on many of these rights, many of these values when it comes to Team Liquid, and we feel as strongly and are as convinced about all of these things today as we've always been. And that, of course, makes it very tricky for us to participate in these events. The reality of the situation is also that this is really a shift in the ecosystem of esports. These are not one-offs. There's times in sports where a regional organization, they get to participate one time in a region like this, and they get to say yes or they get to say no. But whatever their answer might be, it's business as usual after. That's not necessarily the case for Team Liquid and other organizations within esports. This is a global industry with activity throughout all of the different continents, all of the different countries. And so, for example, for Team Liquid, when we look at a decision like this to participate, there's many things that we need to take into account. So first and foremost, this event, Gamers 8, is really being built to be the new World Championships of esports. The money that's flowing in from a prize money perspective, a participation perspective, it is absolutely enormous. In a way, if Team Liquid does not participate, it leads to all sorts of challenges. A quick and easy example would be when Team Liquid is trying to make a roster change and attract new talent to the organization. This talent will want to play in the biggest events on the planet. And if Team Liquid's answer is we don't play at these events, it will be a real challenge for us to either maintain top talent or attract top talent at Team Liquid. And truth be told, for better or worse, I do not see a path, or I do not see a future for an organization within esports to stay at the top tier and not participating in any of these events. These are tough decisions, and we will stand for our values, we will stand by our values, and we will continue to express those values, whether it's during these events or related to our participation. We have no issues or qualms calling out the human rights issues in the region. In the end, we are making these decisions for the health of our company. That's definitely true. And we understand that may not be good enough for some of you, but we hope that there's some understanding of the situation that we are in. When it comes to what we stand for, some of our values are diversity, inclusion, authenticity. Ultimately, what's most important and what it all comes back to is that we believe anyone, any individual should be allowed to just be themselves. And that is something that we deeply, deeply believe in. That's not necessarily always the case in all countries, all regions. And so that is one of the challenges that we have with regards to participating in Gamers 8. We will always continue to adhere to these values to the best of our ability. And where possible, and if possible, we will try and help out and do some good. For example, related to the war in Ukraine, we opened up our apartments in the Netherlands and had over 15 individuals and families come here for a place of safety. We've always supported the LGBTQIA rights all over the world for as long as I can remember. We picked up a women's Valorant team to hope to help improve diversity and inclusion within the industry. We will continue to do all of those things. And related to our participation in Gamers 8, we will be donating a portion of our prize pool to a charity that helps with issues in the region. We're going to continue sharing our thoughts on human rights issues, and where possible, help achieve some progress.
I mean, fair play with my guest for recording a video that explicitly underlines the ludicrous hypocrisy and quantum state of being you have to operate in to do business with Saudi while speaking out against the evils that the Saudi state participates in actively. Understand as well, just also to the rest of the gotcha merchants, yeah, America does commit human rights violations. I am vehemently still hoping for the day George Bush is arrested for war crimes, but it's not going to happen. But anyway, here's the difference. If I go and work an esports event in America, that is an independent company funding it and running it, it's not funded by the American government. If I go and work the Riyadh Masters, which is owned by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, it is state-owned, state-ran. In fact, the guy whose decision it is to drop bombs on Yemen or hold mass executions is the chairman of the board of the ESL Face It group. So, you know, the Crown Prince himself. So anyway, you can't do it, guys. You can't do it. And you're saying, I'm going to keep on speaking about it, but the problem is your actions belie that it's just talk. And on top of that, I'll just add, what a sad thing to say that if we had a team of players, we couldn't get good players to play for us because they would want to compete in Saudi Arabia too. And look, I'll just say this, I don't think we should let the players off the hook at all. Where's the player objections? Not one. There's not a single esports player that is going to say anything about participating in Riyadh. There's no one going to sit it out, no one going to take a stand, not one player. We don't have a single player in any esport that's willing to do it. We have no equivalent of Muhammad Ali saying, I'm not going to Vietnam. We don't have that in esports. There's not one person with the moral fibre to say no to the bag who is a professional player. Isn't that fucking sad? That was Team Liquid. Now, you're going to go, oh, but Richard, come on, man. They're giving some money to charity, right? It ain't a little bit. It's like 100,000 that they're giving to charity. All right, then. Let's do some investigating on this, right? Let's have a look. So, I'll take you to the Liquipedia page. Let's have a go, shall we? Let's have a scrollity. By the way, we're about to get to all of this talent in just a moment. This is the prize pool. Now, keep in mind, Team Liquid were just in the final at the Bali Major. They have a very good chance of winning this. And I happen to know that, well, from old contracts anyway, it used to be Team Liquid's cut of prize money was 10%. I don't know if it's different for Dota. It could be. I don't know if it's just changed in general throughout the org. Some orgs let players keep 100%. Some take as much as 25%. It's all different, right? But anyway, there's the money. 5 mil if you win. 5 mil. This is a 15 million prize pool. And, you know, look, even if you go down to the very bottom, I mean, a team is getting 50 grand in prize money just to turn up and lose, right? So Team Liquid have a real chance of nailing a top 4 spot. I would say it would be really fucked up if they didn't, right? So let's assume they get 4th. They have actually made a profit. They'll come out 20k ahead, the org itself. So, you know, that's the charitable donation, right? And obviously, you've got all the benefits of the advertising, all the benefits of the sponsored deliverables, all the fans you're going to make by going and attending. So, yeah, okay. Now, I did say, didn't I, the talent. Now, in general, I'll say, unlike CS talent and certainly League of Legends talent, generally, these are a good bunch of guys that don't ever feel the need to, like, grandstand and talk about how amazing they are and love me, and give me validation and all that bullshit, right? They generally don't do it. Some do, which we're going to get to. But I just want to say, knowing and liking a lot of these people, having worked with them, having met them behind the scenes, having gone drinking with them, you are all now compromised. You can never talk about human rights again. Isn't that sad? Because now the first thing that's going to happen if you ever raise a matter of human rights, particularly if it's specifically related to the Middle East, that person will not listen to your point and they will go and say, yeah, but you were at this event though. Do you see the problem you put yourselves in? Because yes, you can use your platform for good and to proselytize and talk about good things. I do that myself. By the way, I criticize virtue signaling while simultaneously virtue signaling on some issues. I don't think virtue signaling itself is bad. It's when you virtue signal something that isn't even really a virtue, or you virtue signal a virtue you don't actually possess. That's when it becomes a problem. But anyway, so people will not any longer listen to your points on these matters. You will say, oh, this is a bad thing, and they're going to go, yeah, but you did this worse thing. That's it now. And it's sad that, for the bag, you're going to compromise yourself like that. So, just as an example, right? Because I'll show you the talent announcement for the Riyadh Masters. This is the Gamers 8 official Twitter account. They're going, oh, we got so many fantastic talent. Hearts for eyes. Not gay hearts, though. No, none of that. If you're looking at it, hey, watch it. This is Riyadh. So, hearts for eyes. It's all about the love. It's all about the love, okay? And all of these people have all signed up. There you go. And they've all got anime drawings as well. Now, this is all fine. Go work your event. Go get the bag. Loads of my buddies in CS are going to do it. But loads of my buddies in CS understand you can't have your cake and eat it on this motherfucking thing. So, again, do just want to remind you, if you're going to say things like this, sorry, you're a hypocrite, you're a shill. I don't give a fuck how good you are at your job. Like, this is just outrageous. It's just ridiculous. So, here we go. There it is. There's Purge himself. Just finished my shift at the polls. It's fun and rewarding work. Gonna do an election result stream later today. Once polls are closing, we'll be answering questions about the American political system and tell everyone why Republicans are bad. Why Republicans are bad. So let me see if I can think of an entity that's worse than Republicans. You might think of them as Republicans on steroids because of their, antics. So, by the way, would Purge work a Republican fundraiser? If the Republican Party said we want to have a Dota 2 tournament, no, he'd absolutely turn them down. He'd laugh in their face. So why the fuck are you working with Saudi then? Yeah, this is absurd, guys. It's absurd. It's absurd on its face. Like, I couldn't imagine, lacking the shame mechanism for this. So anyway, let's go on. Let's do another. Again, this is a tough one to talk about, but we're going to have to do it, aren't we? Rainbow Six, obviously. Remember when they all took that stand, right? Remember when the Rainbow Six all took that stand? There was a W there in the middle of another major, right? We had Ubisoft, who make Rainbow Six. They just dropped it on their talent, who, by the way, includes openly gay members of talent, trans member of talent. They just dropped it while having the next event in Dubai. They didn't know it was coming. They didn't consult with them. They didn't ask how they felt about it before they did it. They just dropped it on them in the middle of an event. And they just had to stand there. Oh, wicked. And of course, all the advertising and everything's like, hey, we'll all see you there. See you in Dubai. No, won't see you in Dubai. No, I won't actually. So anyway, all the talent protested. There was a survey, got like 13,000 signatures, and Ubisoft turned around and gave an apology and said, yep, we're moving the event because, you know, we understand why people wouldn't feel safe when you're gay and you have to go work in a country that literally criminalizes your identity. Right, so fine, okay, well done. And I was like, everybody clapped, I was up there, rapturous Citizen Kane gif applause, right, well done. Because it's not that I'm just a hater, I gave everyone props on the Neon shit. I gave everyone props, all the Rainbow Six guy. I love that collection of talent, by the way. I think there's some phenomenally talented people in there. It's really nice people as well, by the way, guys. In this industry, meeting nice people is rare. They're all fakes or pieces of shit in some way. I can't express that enough. Like, anyone you have a conceptualization about in your brain, do a 180 on it. It ain't legit. It's this whole industry is fugazi for real. So anyway, you then think, well, Rainbow Six at the fucking, you know, in Riyadh is going to be a desolate place. And look, people, this wasn't the first time Rainbow Six has been out there. People have talked about this. Like, here's an example. Jess is like former coach, great analyst, great host, award-winning. Here's what she said on a string.
Stricter punishments in Saudi Arabia. Every other country, for what I've seen, is embracing my people's decisions. I don't mind Dubai. Like, Dubai City, I've worked in there. I've done girl gamer events there. I've been treated really fucking nicely in Dubai in the past few years. Like, out of all the places I know we're trying really hard, the center of Dubai is absolutely one of them. I will give them that. But you're absolutely right, and you out of everyone would know this, out of all of the places in your entire region that you probably shouldn't hold something, Saudi Arabia is absolutely one of them.
Right then, well that's good. Yeah, I agree. Let's not go. Let's not go. But what ended up happening? She went. She has, of course, attended. And there it is. See you in Riyadh. By the way, hilariously, that the marketing for Gamers 8 in Riyadh was dread it, run from it, destiny still arrives. Oh, I do dread it. I certainly do. But yeah, anyway, right, okay, well, no. Surely there'll be reasons. There'll be like an explanation or something. We'll get to it. She put out an apology because she had to, because loads of fans noticed that she was at the event and they said, like, look at the shit she's said about us in the past. Just as an example, this was the type of thing that was happening. She got tagged in this. She insulted our holy book. She retweeted someone saying, like, you know, the Quran's a little bit outdated for modern society. That same person also said here they tagged Gamers 8 specific. So by the way, this is dangerous, right? Jess is an openly gay person and she's in Riyadh and someone is tagging the organizers, tweeting people saying that, you know, she's insulted the Quran, for fuck's sake, right? So you can see here, as a Muslim, I don't want her in a Muslim country like the Holy Land of Saudi Arabia. My brothers in Islam take her out. She's an atheist who doesn't respect our religion and is often enough actively disrespected, right? So, and by the way, I will give a generous reading of the phrase take her out and assume it meant take her out of the event. But that is why, you know, like, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. Once you're on this side, once you're on the pro-human rights side, once you're in the, yeah, you should probably, like, revise a few attitudes side, people ain't ever gonna let you switch unless you give a groveling, fawning apology or convert. So that's what happened. She went for the groveling apology. It's one of the it's one of the saddest things I've read in esports. No joke. And the replies to it are even sadder. I was initially approached last year to attend Gamers 8 and had entered into negotiations with ESL. I then decided to publicly state that I wanted to attend to help represent women in the LGBT community. Unfortunately, I became fearful due serious messages I received upon announcing this and told ESL I had to withdraw from the event, putting my personal safety as a priority. I mean, we've just heard the clip. We also know it's a little bit more than that, right? I then used this fear to make statements about others attending that were completely unfair and are not opinions I hold anymore. This year, EFG, that's ESL Facebook group, reached out again and asked if I could assist with social media and content. I was upfront with my fear, but still wanted to be a positive representation. Given the success of last year's event and the positive experiences I was given references to, I spoke to my partner and agreed to attend. I did not ask or negotiate for any more money than my current talent rate. Since arriving, my fears have further been quelled by the immense amount of respect and professionalism that has been afforded to me and the team, and I have worked incredibly hard before and during this event to give the players and audience the best possible experience we can. It is my hope this does not overshadow the hard work of all the production, orgs, and players at the event. I spoke with EFG and expressed deep shame. Man. They broke you. Ugh. Deep shame for the emotional comments I made last year, and can only hope that this experience adds to the growth I have made this year and is a lesson to never speak on high emotions. Rather, think it through and with kindness and respect. Growth isn't an easy road to travel, and as I grow, I want to make sure I take responsibility for any negative comments I made and prove my growth now and into the future. I mean, that's when they got you. And by the way, if you go and look at the replies, all the replies to that apology are stuff like Mohammed Soliman saying it's not easy to admit you were wrong about something. What, like Riyadh doesn't fucking the Saudi Arabian state mistreats gay people? How would you be wrong on that? Very glad to have you here in Riyadh. This makes me happy. Someone says, you are the GOAT for this. Good job. Not everyone has the courage to admit their mistake, from Osama Al-Sharif. It's all like that, man. And it's like, no, you were right the first time. And now the validation is in walking back the thing you were right about. That's like the saddest shit. So there was that. Everyone is bag addicted. And it's absolutely crazy. I mean, I get it. Like, I was talking about this with a colleague last night. I was like, listen, they had concerns about potentially working the event. And I said, look, you're on good standing because you've never said you wouldn't do it. That's the key. Like, look, I'd still rather they didn't do it, but it's not my place to dictate my ethics and my morals and my virtues to them and make them live by that. It's up to them. They have to either come along or they don't. But you can't double dip. You can't have both. And so anyway, I mean, look at how crazy this shit is, right? This is how crazy the bag is. And this is why they've got all of these orgs by the balls. And you can just say, like, look, they're giving 5 million to whichever esports org gets the most overall Ws across all the tournaments in 8 weeks. Just a 5 million bonus for that org. It's mental, the money that's out there, and that's how they're getting everyone by the balls. That's why they've took over the industry. That's why it's fallen, guys. The industry is now totally Saudi-owned. It's over. They're investing in all the games development companies. They're running all the big tournaments. They've got all the big tournament operators. So here's what you have to decide. If you work and make a positive contribution towards esports profitability in any way, you are helping that regime. That's it now. That is where we're at. So, I never take joy in having to do streams like this and call out individual names. I don't like it. It makes me sad, honestly, because I know people can't help but, like, take it personally. People can't help but get upset about it. It kills friendships. And this is what I mean. This is why I was depressed the last few days. I knew I was going to have to murk a bunch of friendships. I knew it would come to this because they're going to get upset about what I'm saying because they're like, why would you target me? And I'm saying, like, I'm not targeting you per se. I'm targeting this stupid grifter industry. And so I wrote this. You will now get a dramatic recreation of a satirical article I wrote the other day. Like, so I was feeling depressed. Like I say, I was down in the dumps about all of this stuff. I'm watching an industry fall. I don't really care about that, but it is sad to lose friends over this. And it's sad to just think about how I don't think there's any coming back from it now. It's like Victor was right about that. It's unavoidable. You are going to have to participate in something Saudi operated if you want to earn a living in esports, unfortunately. And so, unless you're like me, you see, I after years of being bag averse, I've now got you. You guys are my bag, right? I never have to go to Saudi for a bag. As long as I got you, I have a bag, right? I've got my own community. I don't need the esports community. I've got you guys. So as long as we all stay coup de la, it's all gonna be fine. Much love to all of you for that. So anyway. By the way, this photo was also the last time I was actually happy in life. This is the last time I had anything good going on. So people go, wow, you look good there. It's like, yeah, I was still invested in existence. So anyway, I wrote this article, and you'll see why as I give you a dramatic reading. But I also just want to start by saying people were messaging me going, have you been hacked? What's going on? Why? And I finished the article, dude. Like, I had to say it about 12 times yesterday to people. And then there were loads of people who didn't get the satire. And it's so obvious that, right? Like, so first of all, the title should give it away. Right, so it's obviously Dr. Strangelove, how I learned to stop worrying and love the bomb, but I said how I learned to stop worrying and love the bag. I just wanted to update you all about the exciting new developments in my life as I take my esports career to the next level. Now, as we've absorbed all of the content previous to this, right, hopefully the satire will be even more scathing because you've seen the things that drove me to it. Anyway, hi everybody, it's me, your favourite esports personality, writing a rare blog post to keep you up to date with what has been going on in my life and what the future holds. Before we get to that, though, I want to just talk openly about why I got into esports and why the industry means so much to me. Esports is a truly global industry where people from all backgrounds, of all identities, can come together unimpeded through a shared love of video games and support each other in a pursuit to be the best. The esports community has made it clear there is no room for any discrimination or prejudice of any kind, and we've all come together to make sure everyone with an American-centric viewpoint feels welcome. Now, by the way, that line immediately, right? Like, please, please, guys, my fingerprints are all over this. Like, it's like I'm already getting out all of the top 10 Richie Lewis hits. Like, that's in at 10. American cultural imperialism. Like, these are all the things I talk about. Okay, whatever, right? I've been so fortunate to have been a part of that down the years and now have the privilege of earning six figures despite having no tangible life skills. However, I have to say that at times, this space hasn't felt so welcome. In the past, you may have noticed, I simply couldn't shut the fuck up about US politics and how bad the Trump years were. I'm sure you saw and interacted with many of my viral tweets during that time. While I really did appreciate every single validating comment you gave, some people did say at the time that I should stop posting about these things, especially as my takes were supposedly hysterical and exaggerated. Now, by the way, this is called a setup and a punchline. Hysterical and exaggerated being the joke, the next line being something hysterical and exaggerated. Of course, they didn't realise we had literal fascists in the White House, and despite me not even living in America, not even knowing what the Electoral College is, it was clear that we were all in danger from Cheeto Hitler and his demented policies. People's lives were at stake as basic human rights were ignored, and even though I might only work in esports, it was vitally important I use my platform to speak out about those things so that we could push for real change by you telling me how right I was. Standing with those who face real oppression is not something I will ever back down from, and if you cannot accept that, then maybe I am not a person you should be following. Now, below the fold, there's a visual gag coming in, right? Other working titles for the event of the Khashoggi Masters were like the Bone Saw Masters and all of that stuff. By the way, those who don't know, Jamal Khashoggi was a political dissident that was very critical of the Saudi Arabian state. He was murdered in an embassy, no doubt under orders from the Crown Prince himself. He was chopped up into pieces and put into a suitcase and carried out of the embassy. And even though this is an absolute atrocity, no one has been held accountable for it. It was even described in an interview by a representative of the Saudi Arabian state as an unfortunate mistake. And the American government say that they must extend diplomatic immunity to the Crown Prince for reasons. So, by the way, if anyone thinks this is a flippant sight gag, understand how vitriolically outraged and seething I am about the flippancy with which we are working with people who would murder journalists. But anyway, obviously, there you go. You can see we did Khashoggi Masters, we did like swords and suitcases. We were going to name a very popular suitcase company as a sponsor, but I wanted to keep real names out of it just in case people got litigious, even though satire should be a defense. Anyway, with all that said, I'd like to share with you all the exciting announcement. Share with you all the exciting announcement that I will be working at the upcoming Khashoggi Masters in Riyadh. This event is going to have one of the largest prize pools in esports history and truly represents the cutting edge of the industry. How very droll. It must be said that I, possibly like you, did have some concerns about contributing to a Saudi Arabian state-owned esports event, as I had heard some disturbing allegations about their human rights record. After looking at some of the literature sent to me by their parent company, spoiler, that's actually happening. That's like one for industry people. Like, you'll notice not a lot of the people this is about, in fact, not one retweeted this. I found that actually no one has been imprisoned or executed for being LGBTQIA+, and claims to the contrary are just Western propaganda designed to generate clicks from bigots. In fact, when you look at the statistics, the Riyadh police rarely ever has to imprison or execute anyone, unless they're guilty of something called deviant beliefs, which Saudi Arabia seems to have had a surge of recently. It's also disappointing that so many don't know about the huge strides made in women's rights in the country. For example, did you know that the guardianship laws that required women to have a male chaperone at all times now only applies to the under 18s as of last year? And while women still legally require a male guardian's permission to marry someone or leave prison even after a sentence has ended, what system is perfect? They are allowed to drive now. It really is safe to say they've had their own girl power revolution. Now, don't get things misconstrued. I had said some silly things in the past, who hasn't, about Saudi Arabia when the Neom sponsorships came into esports. So by the way, this is an explicit call out for, remember how everyone was against Neom and we all did it, read it, and we all celebrated and cheered? And then the Saudis came back and bought everything, and then everyone went, oh, ownership's not the same as sponsorship. Oh, contraire. These comments were made before I had the opportunity to work this event, and in no way reflect my views today. They were made in ignorance. For example, I didn't know that the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, blessed be his name, is himself a massive gamer with tens of hours in Call of Duty. That's actually a real story, by the way, from France 24. Google it, look it up. I also didn't know that they will pay up to 10 times the going rate for appearance fees without even attempting to haggle. Once I became aware of this, and just how engaged Saudi fans were in esports, I simply couldn't turn down the opportunity to go there. To round out what is going to be a busy year for me, I will also be participating in the Uyghur Re-Education League finals in Xinjiang. Now this one is a double whammy of being an outrageous joke and with an outrageous sight gag, because thanks to the many creative Photoshop people that did loads of work on it, you can see these are people from the Uyghur Muslim re-education camps. Again, if you're not aware of this topic, what's happening in the Xinjiang region, it's an autonomous region in China where under broad terrorist laws that were given in 2014 and then ramped up in 2017, they are detaining an entire ethnic group in the region into what they call re-education camps to essentially brainwash the Islam out of them. But while they're doing that, they just so happen to be participating in labour that involves picking cotton. Yes, they're putting people in camps to pick cotton, and Americans are saying, yeah, we don't see any problem with doing business with people doing that. So anyway, we had in the picture, we had some of the Uyghur Muslims, which again, they're given prison uniforms for some reason in these re-education camps. Very strange. And you can see in the background the sponsors include Tencent for this fictitious event, TikTok, which actually spies on people and gives data to the Chinese government, and the Chinese government itself. Anyway, so we're going to have the Uyghur Re-Education League, URL, see how it's a little tech reference as well, finals in Xinjiang. China represents the largest market in esports and has so many fans all wanting to be part of the epic entertainment that games developers bring. That's a direct reference to Activision Blizzard's cowardice when they penalised Blitzchung for saying freedom in Hong Kong, and they gave an apology that didn't use the words Blitzchung, China, or freedom. Anyway, the URL will see many competitors from the region, including Tibet crossed out China, Taiwan crossed out China, and Hong Kong crossed out China, who will all come together to compete for the largest prize pool in the region. It is an honour to be a representative of the values of diversity, inclusiveness crossed out, one China policy, and I look forward to meeting those fans that aren't under strict curfews. So a lot going on there. This is, of course, a reference to the way Chinese fans have sort of been controlled by the state to not recognise Tibet or Taiwan or Hong Kong. It's called the One China policy. Global governments have this One China policy. You'll remember, by the way, that when Donald Trump accepted a phone call from the president of Taiwan, everyone was going, oh no, he's violated One China policy. Look, he's a moron. He's an orange moron. He's going to bring about World War III over this. And now, of course, we've got China feeling very comfortable flying jets over Taiwan at the moment. And, of course, American military moving into that region because they do believe an invasion of Taiwan could be imminent. So weird how that's not a big deal, but the phone call was, isn't it? But anyway, so the One China policy is obviously there, but this is also with the cross-outs a reference to, let's just say, I am told certain things that have been written and talked about and tweeted all during this time of trying to go from the tonal whiplash of, yeah, we love the gays, we love all identities, now let's go work with the Saudi Arabian state. Let's just say some people are having those statements written for them by entities owned by the Saudi Arabian state. And let's just leave that there. Let that one percolate for a few days. Let's see what comes tumbling out. There's some gifts to your journalists in the chat. Go dig. Anyway. And, of course, curfews in China. Everyone is under these ridiculous curfews for a variety of reasons. Certainly the Uyghur Muslims are under a curfew. That's putting it nicely. I mean, they're also victims of forced sterilisation, but the world just watches and no one cares. But obviously, as well, in China, they have strict curfews in general because their approach to COVID was to erode what little personal freedom Chinese citizens have. And people were literally being welded into their house, including in one block of apartments where people died of thirst. So anyway, we'll ignore that and we'll just get back to the funnies. I'm not naive, and even though I find myself very comfortable with the decision to participate in these events, this is the internet. Some of you will probably notice some trolls in the comments calling me names such as sellout, hypocrite, shill, or grifter. These hurtful words are thrown around liberally by a negative minority, often astroturfed by troll accounts. But I'm a realist and accept some of these comments will be made in misguided earnest. As such, I will be making a donation of $10,000, a whole day's work, to the first LGBTQIA+ charity I find when Googling. Now, there's a lot in that one, isn't there? Obviously a direct reference to the flippancy with which Team Liquid tried to buy gay silence, but also the flippancy is underlined by me saying, you know, I don't even care about these charities on a good day, but when I have to make a charitable donation, I just type gay charities into Google, and the most popular one that comes up is the one I give to. By the way, that's a legit thing. There is always instances in esports, sports, you know, where somebody does something bad and they have to give money a charity to fool the moronic general public into believing there's been some kind of personal growth, some sort of development, some sort of general mea culpa being pushed in the motions. And of course, all they do is they just go onto Google and they're like, well, that's the popular one, so we'll give them the money. Anyway, in addition to that, I also make a solemn pledge to every esports fan across the world that I will continue to speak out on the issues that matter to you. I, like you, again, that's a callback to earlier, very much want the cultural capital that vehemently stating mainstream opinions brings, and will never fail to stand up for the values of diversity and inclusiveness in the safe environment we have constructed for ourselves. Now, that is obviously the thing that makes me the most angry. That, you know, look, we've achieved great strides in gay rights in the West, you know, in America, in the UK. I mean, to put it in context, yeah, I'm an old boomer, but when I went to school, it was at like the tail end of teachers couldn't say they were gay. You know, teachers couldn't be openly gay. If you were found to be gay, you could be fired, maybe even prosecuted, and people marched and fought to get that right, that disgusting rule, law, whatever you want to call it, repealed. So I've seen the progress. And so what I would like very much is for the groups that are empowered to go and fight these battles, to fight them where it matters. But instead, we watch an American broadcast and we get rainbow flags and, you know, all relationships matter, all identities matter. Here's a canonically gay character in our game. Then we go to South Korea and we don't see any of that. And those characters aren't canonically gay. We go to Russia and we change the law of our own characters to make them not gay, to make them not lesbian, to make them not trans. We go, you know, we show one type of broadcast here and we don't there. And why? For reasons. We have a pride event in our video game that we make it so it can be optionally turned off. And then we lie and we say, oh no, it's to protect people so they don't accidentally out themselves in those countries, when in reality it's about moral cowardice. It's about wanting to have your cake and eat it, and everybody can see it, by the way. Then we must also be aware that this is an ever-evolving industry, and sometimes to really help the people you love, like my children, for example, shout out one time Frankie, you have to be flexible with those values and know when to fight. After all, who would be best served by me refusing to work a significant portion of the esports calendar? Not me, not you, and not the fans in those countries who want to so desperately see my work in person for what might be the first time and potentially last time, depending on how they identify. Yes, that is saying what you think it's saying. I look forward to seeing so many of my respected colleagues on the road in the coming weeks and hope you'll all be tuning into the broadcasts and showing your support. It truly is great to see the esports industry finally find financial support from those who truly value its reach and message, and we should all be grateful. Never forget, esports is for everyone. And let's bring up this handsome young man to finish that. So, I bang that out in an hour with a hangover, right? So maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, whatever. Not here to pat myself on the back. But as you can see, this is why it had to be written, because the industry is sick with this ridiculous double standard, and I don't understand why I can't find anyone, well, hardly anyone, I can't find anyone that wants to walk away from this or try and push back against this or try and say something about this, like something substantial, something meaningful. Everybody's racing to get this bag, and I'm like, what are you gonna do with it when you get it? What's so good about having it? Like, everybody can see who is real on this issue and who isn't now. How does that make you feel? You know, like, I just don't understand it. It's just really sad. I honestly thought the one thing in esports you could generally rely upon is you would find, like, some groups that, like, even if it was just based on their own narcissism, that they would want to come along for a fight like this. You know what I mean? But no. No. This is actually the bridge too far for everyone. It's fucking crazy. So, anyway, Gamers 8 is going ahead. It's not going to stop anytime soon. And it's going to become an institution, as is the Riyadh Masters. And unfortunately, what we're going to be stuck with is when people get back, almost certainly it's going to be a deluge of people telling you why it was okay for them to go, or how they were in a corner, or how they're sorry they let you down, but you know, it's difficult, it's complicated, the world's a complicated place. When it really just is this simple that, like, again, you know, it's like I used the example with Purge, but let's, you know, take him out of it for a moment and just use another example. Like, domestically, imagine there was an American state that was doing what Xinjiang is doing with the Uyghurs. There'd be international outrage, international condemnation. It could even lead to another fucking civil war. People would absolutely not do business with that. People wouldn't do business with America, probably. It would be like some international, you know, well, maybe not now, but it would certainly draw enough attention. And let's say, you know, again, Republican fundraisers, right? We all know conservatives are bad, right? They're bad. And the Democrats are the good guys, because this is my childlike lens through which I view the world. So I wouldn't do any work supporting that. In fact, I have been condemned because I spent 6 months writing at a conservative website. And that'll be a bugbear for me. And by the way, even though I've apologised and totally owned it, and people go, again, as another moron gotcha, you worked 6 months at that website. Let me know how many gay people they killed. Yeah? Let me know how many 16-year-olds they executed with fake confessions. Let me know how many journalists they chopped up and put in suitcases. Let me know how many bombs they dropped on children in Yemen. Tell me about it then. But I'm evil. I'm sick, but not you. So, you know what I mean? The bottom line is, like, I just can't be part of this. I can't be part of this sick pantomime. It really is a joke that, you know, the clock's gonna tick. We're gonna get back to June. We're all going to put on the fake rainbow badges. We're going to get to the GG for all and the Valorant game changers, and we're all going to be talking about how great these initiatives are. And then we're all back in July. We're all back for Gamers 8 in Riyadh, like taking money from the Saudi state and just telling everyone how complicated it is. I kept it simple. I said, I won't take that money. And to this day, I haven't took that money. Like, for me, being able to say these things is more important. And what we're going to get to in a few days, and I'm really hoping I don't have to do it, but there are some people out there right now that really need to start disclosing some shit. Because, listen, I can't let kids, young adults, get lied to. I can't let people misplace trust. So there's some other shit out there, man. The tendrils of this money, of this Saudi money, go so fucking deep under the soil of esports. Everything is corrupted. Everything is poisoned. And if I've got to be friends with people that want to lie about that or fucking try and delude the general public, I'm not coming along for that ride, guys. I'm sorry. There ain't no friendship strong enough to make me sell out that value. That's in there.